Hello everyone, in this video, I will go over 5 tips to learn front-end web development as an absolute beginner, as well as a roadmap that you can follow to learn as quickly as possible. Let's get started. Tip number 1 is to limit the number of resources you are using when you're first starting out. The internet is an amazing place for learning just about everything. However, with thousands of resources, it can also be overwhelming. I would recommend sticking to 2 or 3 resources when beginning to learn front-end web development. The reason for this is because you want to have just enough resources to learn everything you would need as a beginner, but not too many that you get confused or overwhelmed. I believe having 2 or 3 resources when beginning to learn front-end web development is perfect because you should have enough content to learn everything you would need, but not too much content. Another positive is that you will also get to see a few different ways of coding the same thing. This is useful because if one resource's code samples don't make sense to you, you can always look at another resource's samples. I will leave some good resources to learn front-end web development in the description below that you can check out after you're done watching this video. Tip number 2 is to learn by practice. Although it's important to read and understand all the concepts of front-end web development, it is also important to apply your knowledge in the form of practice projects. Projects are great for testing yourself and seeing what you understood and what you need to look back on. Some common examples of practice projects are calculators and to-do lists. One thing I would recommend when working on practice projects is to make each project unique. By this, I mean don't make multiple to-do lists. This will only make you better at making to-do lists. Instead, try making something you've never made before, such as a website that visualizes sorting algorithms or a website about yourself. If you ever find yourself not knowing what project to make next, try making something that could help you in your day-to-day life. This will make the project much more rewarding when it's done because you made something that you could actually use in the real world. Tip number 3 kind of ties into tip number 2, and that is to avoid doing tutorials. Although following tutorials might be fun, they don't actually help you learn as much as you might think. If you do too many tutorials, you'll end up in a position where you're good at following tutorials but not good at solving problems on your own effectively. This is because you have trained your brain to follow instructions instead of thinking about things on your own and solving problems. Tip number 4 is don't get ahead of yourself. Although it sounds fun to learn the advanced concepts of front-end web development, you have to remember that you need to be able to walk before you can run. Take the time to learn the basic concepts well before moving on to the advanced concepts. This will make the learning process much smoother and will make learning the advanced concepts much easier. My last tip is to never give up. It is crucial to remember that learning is a lifelong process. No one will be able to learn everything there is to know about front-end web development in one day. This is why it's important to not get discouraged and keep on learning. You may see other people that know much more about front-end web development than you. Remember to not compare yourself to them, but try to learn from them. Now let's go over a roadmap that you can follow to make learning front-end web development much easier. The first thing you'll need to learn is HTML. HTML is the most basic form of a website, and it is always the first step you should take to learning front-end web development. Once you have learned basic and intermediate concepts in HTML, it's time to move on to CSS. CSS is what's known as a styling language. It's used to make the structure you laid out in HTML look pretty. Something important to remember is that CSS is easy to pick up but hard to master. This is a step that you should take a long time on to make sure you really understand what's going on. Once you're done with CSS, it's time to move on to JavaScript. You can think of JavaScript as the brains of the website. Any logic on your website, such as a button being pressed or someone scrolling on the website, is implemented using JavaScript. Unlike HTML and CSS, JavaScript is the first programming language that we're going to look at. This being said, there are a lot of concepts to learn inside of JavaScript, and it could take some time to get the hang of everything. However, once you've learned JavaScript, you've done it. Now you can make your own website. Although now you can make your own web page, there's still things to learn, such as frameworks. Frameworks are tools that make the process of creating complex web pages easier. Examples of frameworks would be Sass, which is a CSS framework, and React, which is a JavaScript framework. Although frameworks are not necessary for creating a web page, they are sought-after skills when it comes to getting a job as a front-end web developer. I would recommend taking a look at the frameworks mentioned earlier so that you can make yourself more marketable and stand out from the competition when it comes to getting a job. Okay guys, that's all I have for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If this video was helpful, like the video, and if you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing. With that being said, happy learning.